So they were allowed to go into another county where I feel that county, Hamilton County, 90% white, didn't give a rat's butt about my son.
Thank you for watching Why I Killed You TV. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share this particular video on this particular YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I just do not understand how these officers got acquitted on the state level. However, they are still in big trouble on the federal level. I am praying that the mother of Tyre Nichols is having a halfway decent Mother's Day. I don't know how she could have one, especially after these officers were acquitted. I really don't understand why they had to pick some jurors from another county in order to sit for this particular trial. Never will understand that. I am praying that karma is a motherfucker, and I am hoping that these officers will get in trouble not only on the federal level but on the state level as well. So let's run this clip.
On now, more reaction to this story.
And you know, a lot of focus has been on the jury, as you heard RowVaughn Wells state, that decided the fate of those 3 former Memphis police officers on trial. That jury was from Hamilton County, 5.5 hours from Memphis in the far eastern part of the state.
WREG's April Thompson looks at why attorneys went that far away to find a jury and if it was a mistake for the prosecution.
Hamilton County, Tennessee, 358 miles from Memphis. Attorneys traveled there to find a jury for the 3 officers on the state trial in the Tyre Nichols beating death. Defense attorneys wanted the change of venue over concerns an impartial jury couldn't be found near Shelby County because of so much publicity about the Tyre Nichols case.
There was a motion filed to defense to change venue, and there was a study done of the amount of publicity in the various large cities in Tennessee, and it was found that Chattanooga had the lowest amount of pretrial publicity with regard to this case, and so that's why it was chosen.
Hamilton County, with a population of around 380,000, is 76% white and 20% black, a lot different from Memphis. While we're not sure about the demographics of the full jury pool that was called for the Tyre Nichols case, the final 12 jurors that decided it were all white.
They did not look like Mr. Nichols, or they did not look like the officer that were charged. And we're supposed to be judged by what? People that are our own peers. So.
But this jury was not reflective of the city of Memphis. And I think that was a big win for the defense, because I think the jurors tend to be more conservative from places like Chattanooga and East Tennessee, other parts of East Tennessee, Knoxville, which they're going to be more friendly to the police. And I think that's what you saw here this week.
We asked longtime attorney Art Horn, who was not involved in the Tyre Nichols trial, if attorneys could have done more to get a diverse set of jurors.
I'm sure one of the questions was, had they seen the video in Tyre Nichols' case? And disproportionately, I'm sure African Americans saw that video more than probably white Americans, and so I think that hampered the ability to get diversity and minorities on that jury.
Hamilton County and Chattanooga are worlds apart when it comes to issues facing the communities. Memphis is in a crime fight that's become well known around the region, and it even played into defense attorney Martin Zumach's closing arguments as he read crime headlines to the jury.
CNN headline, CNN. Memphis mayor meets with gang leaders to request ceasefire.
Stressing what police like those on trial face every day.
Crime has continued to go nuts. It's a matter of public record. It's a matter of your own knowledge in your own head when you come to Shelby County.
It was masterful. I think he did a great job for his client. I think he knew the audience that he was catering to, and they played right into the hands of those jurors from Hamilton County.
It worked for the defense. Attorneys got the verdicts they wanted from a jury they pushed for, and prosecutors left to deal with the outcome.
I think it's a testimony to the fairness of our criminal justice system that we bent over backwards to get a jury from another jurisdiction to assure that the defendants were given a fair trial. Beyond that, I don't think I should comment.
Reporting,
we, the jury, find the defendant, Tadarius Bean, not guilty. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Demetrius Haley, not guilty.
Folks, absolutely shocking. Of course, the world was stunned when Tyre Nichols, when this video was released, showing him being viciously beaten to death by these cops. Joining us right now is Ben Crump, the attorney for the family. Ben, this family has to be devastated. How in the hell does this all-white jury come to this decision?
Exactly.
Well, first of all, you start with rolling the fact that it's an all-white jury when the city of Memphis is majority black. The fact that you had different rules where police seem to be the only people who they say we can't get a fair trial in the city where the alleged crime was committed, and they then get to go out and get a more conservative base to select from. It reminds you of the Rodney King, Simi Valley jury situation. And so, I guess it's an algebraic expression, Roland. If X plus Y equals Z, all white jury, and, you hope that it would be a different result, but oftentimes when you don't have people who understand black life experiences and culture, they normally don't have consideration for the dead black victim. That's the only thing I can come to,
Ben, this is the thing.
Video is clear.
This is the thing that we're always talking about, that what happens is when you have these juries, mostly white juries, they see the cops in a totally different light. This is one of those cases where it's clear, it's obvious. And you had 2 of the cops who pled guilty testified against them, and it's like literally, what the hell were they saying? In their mind, they literally think that these 3 cops had no role to play in the death of Tyre Nichols?
I mean, Roland, it's astonishing the fact that they didn't even find them guilty of official misconduct, even though the city ordinance and the police policy said you had a duty to intervene if an officer was committing excessive force. How can you say it wasn't excessive force? They watched, they listened, and as the prosecutors pointed out, they participated.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now typically when you have a hung jury, the prosecution will have an opportunity to talk to the jurors to find out what took place. Any idea if the prosecutors talked to these jurors afterwards to figure out how in the hell they arrived at not guilty on all charges, including the lesser charges?
I don't think this jury wanted to talk to the prosecutors. If I had to guess, Roland, these jurors have a certain mentality, what we see going on the national stage in America. It's divorced of respect, I believe, for black victims. And so, thank God we had Christian Clark and the feds get convictions in federal court on all the officers, because without that, Ms. RowVaughn and her family wouldn't have had any justice. And keep her impressed. She is just utterly devastated.
Even though this happened in Shelby County, that the people of Shelby County was not smart enough to look at the evidence and make an impartial decision. So they were allowed to go into another county where I feel that county, Hamilton County, didn't give a rat's butt about my son. They were allowed to come here and look at the evidence, but they didn't see the evidence. What they saw was a black man running from the police. That's what they saw. What they saw was a black man running from the police. They didn't care that my son was afraid for his life. They didn't care that even though they're not from here, they didn't realize that people were going around dressing up as undercovers and carjacking people. They didn't know that because they weren't from here. So, those people were allowed to come in here, look at the evidence, and deny the evidence, and give out a not guilty plea on each count. Yesterday, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to think. We have gotten so much injustice from this city.
Say that.
That is ridiculous.
Say that.
My son was murdered.
That's right.
By 5 Memphis police
That's
officers.
right. Murder.
He was murdered.
Murder.
And 3 of them got off. Because those jurors decided not to look at the evidence, but only to look at the fact that my son was a black man running from the police. You know, on the night that my son was murdered, a lot of you don't know, but I felt my son's death in my stomach. I didn't realize all that pain that I was feeling, but it was my son's life being taken away from me that night. And when they read that verdict yesterday, that was them taking my son's life away from me again.